welcome to the Doofcast, the official variety podcast of doofmedia.com. My name is Scott Daly, and as always, I'm hunting my co-host through the woods.
And I'm Matt Freeman, and... what?
Shut up, deplorable. This week on the show, it is another one of our Council of Doof episodes, and this is the part of the intro where Matt explains what that means.
Once a month, those individuals that donate to us on Patreon at the Doof Council of Doof level will get to collectively decide on a movie for the community to consider for entrance into the canon. Scott and I and maybe some guests will meet, talk about the movie, and then present our case for why it should or should not be admitted.
But as always, we're leaving the final decision up to you guys. So stick around, listen to our arguments, and then find the link in the show notes to go cast your vote. Matt, what has the council brought for us this week?
This week, the council has put forth the 2020 film, The Hunt.
2020, the newest film that we've considered.
It is the newest film, and of course, it falls in, the hell year where no movies came out, basically.
Yeah. Lots of things to say about this movie. I was surprised to see it nominated, and then I was further surprised to see it win. Just kind of a surprising film, but I think there's a lot to say here.
Sure.
So we're going to talk all about The Hunt. It will be a full spoilers review of that movie. Then we will tell you folks how we voted, and we will leave it up to you. And then we'll move on to our other segments of the show, which, Matt, this week, we're going to announce the winner of Doof Madness 2021. We'll save that for that segment, but I just want to say up front, it was very, very close. It was very close. You don't even know, right?
I don't know. Scott hasn't told me who won, and so I have a preference, and so I could be just deeply crushed, or I could be, pleasantly surprised.
We will find out. And then we're going to wrap up the show by talking about some TV we've been watching. Matt and I have both been watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I've been watching a show on Amazon Prime called Invincible. And then there was a show called The Nevers that premiered this past weekend that I thought was interesting to talk about pilot-wise. Because I'm fascinated by pilots. And it was a new pilot.
Cool.
For a new show that's not based on any previous property, which is wild.
That's weird, yeah.
So pretty stuffed show, but I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, me too.
All right, let's dive into The Hunt.
Everybody get down!
I know what this is. It's Manorgate. Every year, these rich elites kidnap a bunch of normal folks like us.
Where'd they get you from?
Wyoming.
Orlando.
Mississippi.
This is a real thing. You're hunting human beings for sport.
Then you're not human beings.
Matt, what is The Hunt all about?
12 strangers wake up in a clearing. They don't know where they are or how they got there. They don't know they've been chosen for a very specific purpose. The Hunt.
Oh, this movie was directed by Craig Zobel and written by Nick Hughes and Damon Lindelof. There you go, Matt.
Son of a bitch.
You got tricked into watching a Lindelof movie.
Yeah. Well, and the worst part, Scott, is that I like the movie. So.
The fun thing about this too is Nick Hughes is Carlton Hughes' son, and Carlton Hughes was one of the main showrunners, like the co-showrunner of Lost, along with Damon Lindelof. So not only did you have to watch a Damon Lindelof property, but you basically had to watch like a Lost spinoff.
Oh God! Oh no!
So what I'm saying is, I think you like Lost. Is what I'm saying.
No.
So we have a lot to say about this movie, Matt. I think this is actually a really good movie to discuss because I think it's sneakily doing some really interesting things. But I think the thing to start with is maybe the controversy around this movie is the first thing people think of when they hear it.
Yeah,
I don't know if you were aware or remember this going down when the trailer for this movie first came out.
Vaguely, but why don't you catch us up on it?
So basically the trailer for this movie came out and sold the movie as what it kind of is, which is a movie about a bunch of rich liberals hunting conservative people down, calling them deplorables and hunting them down and murdering them. And the right-wing media of our country seized upon this trailer as evidence that the liberals just want to kill all of you conservatives. They want to kill you all. Here it is right here in a movie. And of course, no one had actually seen the movie at all. And I remember watching this trailer and having a real sneaking suspicion that was not what the movie was actually going to be about. That there's some satire going on here, which of course turns out to be absolutely true. But the president tweeted about this movie, the former president rather, tweeted about this movie and how disgusted he was. And I think it also came out, or was originally slated to come out at the same time as some horrific mass shootings. So they pushed it a while, and then they just removed it from the slate. And then I think the Joker movie came out, and like people were really into controversial movies again, so they put it back on the slate right before COVID started. And then they like changed the marketing around to make like to lean into the controversy and be like the most controversial movie of all time. So all this stuff clouds the movie itself, which is I think a fun, very dark, like movie that's lambasting internet culture, like hugely.
Yeah, it's actually pretty clever.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a movie very close to this movie in movie space that would have been terrible. But this movie was actually pretty good and pretty funny. And I think that most people would enjoy it, actually.
Yeah.
It really threads a very difficult needle where it is lampooning attitudes that may be common in our society, but it is only lampooning the ones that really deserve to be lampooned. It's pretty merciless, but I don't think it oversteps itself in any particular place. Like, I found it pretty funny. We'll get into. Are we doing no spoilers first?
No, let's just do it. This is an old movie. Let's just full spoilers. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I mean, I was very engaged with it. It's a fun premise. You get sucked into it quickly. I liked how it began with the. I guess I don't know where to start exactly, but I think one thing both you and I appreciated was the way it begins, where it's actually pretty clever in that it's sort of misleading you into thinking that this one woman is going to be the protagonist,
mm-hmm.
and you follow her around, and then she gets blown away graphically. Yeah. And then the guy who was helping her, you're like, that guy's actually the protagonist.
Yeah, well, I mean, it did an interesting thing where, like, the woman, when they wake up in the field, the first woman is a woman named Emma Roberts, who is an actress that I've seen in quite a few things. She's fairly successful actress. And so you recognize her, and if you don't know anything about the movie, you're like, oh, there's our protagonist, obviously. This is the first one we see. And then when she dies, the person to take that mantle is an actor called Glenn Howerton, who is also a pretty well-known TV actor, who is currently in the show This Is Us that I watch all the time. So you see him and you're like, okay, here he is. It's this guy. Then he steps on a mine.
He steps on a mine after like a Three Stooges routine involving a woman getting impaled on a spike.
And he like picks her up off the spike, rushes her to safety, and then steps on a mine, and she explodes and lands back in the spike pit. This is the kind of juvenile but amazing humor where she's just back in the same spot in the spike pit, and then someone else tries to pick her up, and then he dies as well.
Yeah. Right. So that's, I kind of appreciate it. Like, at first, I think the actual very beginning of the movie is when they kill the guy on the plane with stabbing him in the eye or whatever.
I kind of wish that was cut from the movie.
I didn't love that, because that actually gave me like a kind of I kind of rolled my eyes. I was like, oh, that's just gross, and I don't like this. And but then once we get into the main plot, it gets so over the top so fast that you immediately realize, like, okay, this you just have to get ready for the gore fest and enjoy that aspect, or you're just not going to like the movie. And then I kind of decided, like, okay, all right, I'm changing my attitude.
Yeah. The beginning's really interesting because it opens on their text message, right? It opens on this group of rich, elite liberals are having this text chain where they're joking around and then lambasting the president and then joking around about hunting deplorables. It turns out later in the movie that was literally just a joke, and they weren't actually doing that, but someone hacked the phone and leaked the text messages, and then everyone thought that they were. So their natural response was to actually do it,
right?
Which is hilarious, and I want to get into that later. But then we go to the plane where we don't actually meet the Athena character. The one thing the movie does really weirdly is hide who Athena is for so long. Mm-hmm. It's Hilary Swank, and I don't know why they held the reveal of it being Hilary Swank as if that matters. I thought that was confusing.
Me too. I did not get why I was supposed to care that it was Hilary Swank.
Yeah.
Is there some kind of ironic joke about the fact that it's Hilary Swank?
I don't know. But I mean, the only functional bit that the opening scene I think serves is to define like that champagne is absurdly expensive for no goddamn reason except that someone paid a ridiculous amount of money to go into the wreckage of a ship and pull it up, and that pays off at the very end. I feel like there's a way you could set that up without having that scene, though.
Sure.
And like, it's not like we need to know that these people are assholes. The rest of the movie makes it very clear that these people are assholes.
Right. I mean, the scene, the bit with him, with the one guy on the plane being a douche to the stewardess is like, it's good and funny and terrible and makes you hate him. But then like everything about everything else about the scene is not very, very functional.
Yeah. But like the rest of the movie makes it very clear that we should hate him. I mean, there's a whole scene under the bunker where it's just like, let's spend 5 minutes making you all hate every single one of these people. Yeah,
I kind of wish they just started it in the woods. That's really like my only complaint as far as I can recall. But yeah, so just to continue, we were sort of walking through the movie. I do think it's great. Like he gets blown up by the mine. Yeah. Then you follow this other group of people who are running toward the fence, and you kind of latch onto one of them.
Well, and one of those characters is played by Ike Barinholtz, who again is a really well-known actor who's been in a whole lot of things. So you see a guy like that you recognize and you're like, oh, here we go. Okay, those other two, those were just pretend. Here's the guy. Nope. And those people die very unceremoniously in a way where you're just like, what? And I like how, you're gradually given more information and to figuring out how is this being conducted and who are these people and why are they doing this? And there's a lot of humor threaded through that as you follow the husband and wife couple who killed that group of people in the fake gas station. I thought that was all it's very tightly written. Actually, the jokes are all it's like a very tight back and forth where there's usually like a couple of laughs per beat, if you know what I mean, where you're like, okay, that was clever for like two different reasons actually. Well, and I love that like they have the global warming TV show is on in the background, and there's that one moment where the mother like just after murdering 3 people like looks up at the TV screen and sees like the polar bears are dying and goes, oh, I mean, it's just like, the interesting thing about this is Damon Lindelof. Damon Lindelof is a progressive, right? Both these are progressive people who have progressive politics and who believe in a lot of these causes. They're not lambasting the causes themselves. They're lambasting this certain type of internet warrior who is more interested in proving their opponents wrong than actually solving or assisting in the solving of the problems. Because like every character on the liberal side in this movie is rich, and what are they doing? They're spending their money doing this shit.
Yeah. Right. I think it's a fairly clever and sharply articulated idea that they're going for, which is that all of the liberal bad people are first of all, they're just psychopaths, basically. Like fundamentally they're just bad people. And they've all decided that like the worst straw man of the worst example of online behavior typifies the entire like other side. All of those people are like that, and they're all monstrous, and they're all as bad as the worst of them in my imagination is. And that's what kind of justifies their choice to like just pick up a bunch of them nearly randomly based on the fact that they posted on Reddit or whatever and murder them. And then when you meet the conservative characters, they're basically doing the same thing from the other side, because they are indeed, like you said, the internet warriors who are indulging in wild conspiracy theories, who are basically conspiracy theories that are all sort of centered around the idea that the liberal elites are monsters, and like we're justified in pretty much anything to get rid of these monsters. And so like both sides, due to the polarizing influence and terribleness of online internet culture, have polarized into like not just polarized, but you get a sense that like the worst people from both groups have been selected into these into these like hyper polarized factions.
Yeah.
And the thing that we know, like the reason it's good political commentary is like these stupid hyper polarized factions are the groups that end up dominating discourse because of how the internet works now. But then we who are not in those factions get to watch this movie and enjoy watching them kill each other, which is fun.
Yes, I mean that is the real, and it, like, this movie's almost designed to piss people off if you take it at just the surface level reading, because every conservative character in this movie is really stupid, and every liberal character in this movie is really stupid, and they're all nasty and cruel and just caricatures. I mean, it's like designed caricature. The only human being in this movie that is actually a human being is Betty Gilpin's Crystal, who we're gonna have a whole lot to say about, because she's amazing. I like we've been talking, kind of going through the movie and talking about the introductions of all the characters, and we like jumped around. I love how they introduce Crystal, because we see her briefly through the eyes of Emma Roberts' character, who I'm looking at IMDb, and her character name is just Yoga Pants, which is wonderful. So we see her through her eyes, and like everyone's freaking out. They all wake up in a field and they've got gags in their mouths and they're all losing their minds. And we see Betty Gilpin's Crystal just like across a body of water, just like casually making a compass out of a leaf and a nail, like a needle, just like really casually doing survival skill stuff. And then we cut away from her and we don't come back to her until every one of our oops, they're not the protagonist is dead. And then she just casually walks into the same store that our other characters walked into and just immediately susses out what's going on, wrecks shit. And it does it in the most hilarious way. This is an amazingly unhinged but incredible performance that she's doing here.
She's the best part of the movie by far. Definitely.
Yeah. She's like for most of the movie is like pretty stoic. I think you sent me an image that just had her next to Judge Dredd, because like she's like really stoic, doesn't say a lot, like quiet, not very emotive, and then suddenly will just like make a funny face before she kills someone, or like gives us this like completely perfectly done one-liner, and Betty Gilpin nails it. It's so good. It's so funny. It's so out there. It just helps seal the humor of this whole thing.
She's really doing amazingly fun things with her face, where like, I don't know, you just feel like you know this character, you know exactly what she's thinking at all times.
And we don't actually learn that much about her, because like by design, right? Like I think it's part of what this movie that's doing is so smart, is everything we know about her is superficial. Like we know she's from Mississippi, we know she was in the military, and we know she works at a car rental place, right?
Right.
And these are all basic information that doesn't tell a lot about who she is as a person, but that's the point, right? Because every one of those things you just said, well, maybe not works at a car rental place, but like lives in Mississippi, part of the military, you would immediately say, oh, I know what type of person this is. I know what her politics are. I know what she would think about these things. I know all these things, but we don't actually know anything. Like there's no, like, is she probably more conservative? Probably, but like nothing in the movie says that. It's just you're making that assumption based on external factors, and the movie's challenging that. Like, I mean, that's the whole thing with the amazing Animal Farm part at the very end of the movie.
Oh God, that was so great. Yeah. I mean, I think like it's probably fine to assume that she's conservative, but the thing is, that doesn't imply that she has any opinions on Pizzagate or whatever. And that's conspicuously, she never says any of the inane internet shit that the other characters are saying. She's just like, she's just like, I don't care about any of that. We're just trying to solve the problem. We're just trying to survive and get out of here. I think that's another fun thing, is like the movie really does very deftly ride this line between like tension and comedy. Like there's a lot, especially toward the beginning, I think, where you really aren't sure who's going to live, who's going to die. You want her to live. You believe she might, die because of how easily the movie has been killing off characters.
Sure.
And so there is tension, but then it weaves that in with the comedy moments really well, but it never really breaks. Neither of them really feel inappropriate or break the other.
Yeah, I mean, it uses the tension and it uses the comedy as like a release valve for the tension. I think like we've talked about that convenience store scene a lot already. I think it's one of the best parts of the movie because I think the way it's constructed is are these three characters walk in there, they all die, but there's tension there because we don't know what's going on. Like we don't at this point we don't know those two people are in on it. So like there's just general tension and we kind of see it ramping up. And then Betty Gilpin walks in there, and this time the tension is because we do know what's going on.
Right.
And it's just like a really fun way of just like completely reversing the situation based on the audience's knowledge of what's happening and just mining that for two different kinds of tension. And it works so well.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, that scene is punctuated with her. The way she figures out that they're lying is she asks for a pack of cigarettes. She gives them a 20. They give her not enough change back because they're supposed to be in Arkansas, but cigarettes don't cost that much in Arkansas. And so she does the wonderful line, "You fucked up, bitch." It's just like so silly. It's just like, and this is a woman who has like not emoted at all. Like that entire scene, she's just like, excuse me, do you know like what state we're in? Or like, like it's just such a surprise. And that sets the tone for the rest of the movie.
Right. Yeah, I love. I mean, you're right that she's not emotive, but she's. It's not that she's not acting. She's not being flat. She's portraying being like extremely wary and perceptive and guarded. Yeah. But then there's these explosions of mania that come through, and like that's the thing is like she is the protagonist. She's the hero. She's the audience insert. But like she kills a lot of people with very little justification. Actually. Oh yeah. And it usually turns out that she's right to kill them after the fact, but she didn't really have that much information to go on, and so that all just makes it more fun and kind of crazy, though.
Yeah, I mean her entire justification for killing Mason Blair, who is the person playing the government contact that picks her up, is he says like, "I know I would never blame the victim." Like it's just like it's just so surface level. Like this is what liberals sound like, like it's all caricature, like intentionally. And that's enough for her to just fucking shoot him, to like turn in her seat and kick him and then kick him out of the car and then run over his head. Yeah. It's just wild. Like this movie is operating on a certain wavelength, and I think you could very easily get infuriated by watching it, but I don't know. I felt like I was on the movie's wavelength and just enjoyed it.
I feel like I don't know anyone in real life who wouldn't enjoy this movie. Like,
yeah, maybe.
Like,
I don't know.
I just feel like it is. I mean, I'm sure there are people who would be infuriated by it, but like, I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. And like, not that it was like a rip roaring comedy. Like I wasn't like lolling. But I was enjoying it, and I chuckled, and then it was really kind of more like the action and the being caught up in how's she going to get out of this situation, as things evolved, right? Like it's a good script. It's a very solid script because it's a constant out of the frying pan and into the fire, and then just like Predator or whatever. Like the final act is okay. Now we have to go find take the fight to the enemy, right? Yeah. Which is executed perfectly as well.
It really is. I mean, I think I agree with you about the script. It's very sharp. I mean, that's our boy Damon Lindelof. He's a good writer. No, I mean, there's so many little beats and things in it that like are so revealing. I think like, man, let me tell you something. How many movies do you think you could have in which a character just tells the story of the tortoise and the hare, but gives it as if no one has ever told or heard that story before in their lives? Like she starts telling the story, and it's such a long scene. Like the movie really lets it play out, and you realize like 30 seconds into the story, you're like, oh, she's just telling the tortoise and the hare story. I mean, she's calling it a jackrabbit and a box turtle, but she's just telling the tortoise and the hare story. And like the way the Don character reacts to that as if he's never heard this, like any other human being would be oh, you mean like tortoise and the hare? Yeah, I know how the story ends, because every human being has heard the story, but the movie just lets her do it. It's amazing. Yeah. Like it's just like, And then, of course, there's the moment at the end where the way she gets her second wind is she sees the jackrabbit, because she doesn't just tell the tortoise and the hare story, but she tells the hidden ending of the tortoise and the hare story.
The hidden ending, which is, oh my god, the jackrabbit murders the box turtle's whole family.
Yeah, he goes to the buck turtle house, murders his whole family, and then eats his dinner, and because the jackrabbit always wins.
And this is the story that your mom told you this story. Oh my god, I loved it. Like,
so
I honestly want to like learn that monologue and then learn to perform that, because like it's a wonderful piece of acting, right? Like, as a dramatic monologue, just telling this deeply fucked up version of the tortoise and the hare while she like, and you can see that she's like processing some shit while she's telling it. Like, she's not just telling the story, she's like at the same time kind of thinking through her situation and what she's going to have to do, and there's like pauses in it as you can see her kind of like get a hold of herself, and it's so good. It's incredibly good. It's ridiculous.
I just don't like I don't understand how you write a scene like that in a script and just like say, oh, so you're playing this straight. You're playing this straight as if she's just telling one of the most told fables of all time, and it pulls it off. Like, I mean, like I've watched this movie twice, actually, because I watched it last year when it came out on VOD. Like, I think it was supposed to hit theaters right before the pandemic started, and they just like they did with like Trolls World Tour and all those other movies, they were just like, all right, fine, it's on VOD, boom, go. And so I was really curious about it because I heard all the controversy, and so I've watched it twice, and that part has worked on me equally well each time. You're just kind of flabbergasted that the movie's doing this and pulling it off. It's like watching someone do an incredibly difficult gymnastics routine and just like nailing every bit of it. And you're just like, damn,
yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah, I love it.
So good, so good. What else do we want to talk about here? I mean, I think it's worth talking about when the movie kind of halts everything to give us the backstory of this whole hunt. It's after Crystal has defeated everyone but Hilary Swank and is on her way to defeat Hilary Swank. The movie stops and like gives the backstory of what happened, which was, as we said, the text message about joking about doing the manor hunt game is hacked and leaked, and then a bunch of people assumed that it was real. So their response is to just do it for real, which doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. And then Betty Gilpin confronts Hilary Swank about it, and she's like, but it's true. You have this manor. It's not a manor. It's just a house. And it's I think maybe that's another part where it's like, that wasn't my favorite. Like, I'm not sure if I get the full point of that kind of story digression. Like, what did we actually learn there?
Yeah, I mean, I think what the movie is trying, like, here's the thing. I like this movie. I do think it kind of fumbles some of its politics a little bit. I think the goal there is how this type of stuff becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy eventually. Like, you characterize people a certain way enough on the internet, and people kind of just start to become that way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of pointing out the absurdity of that whole situation and the justification behind that whole situation. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And I mean, there's little bits in here, like, you don't really stop to think about the fact that like they've embedded their only person of color in their group with a group of what country? Croatia are they in? I think they're in Croatia. So they have this group of liberals has like one person of color in it, and they embed him with a group of Croatian refugees.
Right.
And like, that's insane. That like they knew enough to know that there would be a group of Croatian refugees like fleeing for their lives, and their response to that was not, oh God, we got to do something about that. Their response to it was just, this will be a great way to do our whole game.
Yeah.
And it's absurd. It's absurd and indifferent and cruel. And like, I think there's a lot of points to that. But I mean, so I think part of the choice to like show them doing their training and doing their, I do think it kind of halts the story. And I wonder if there was a way to tell the information, the backstory, without like pressing pause on the movie and just like filling us in on it.
Right.
But I do think it's important to what the movie's saying, or trying to say at least.
Yeah, it honestly doesn't go on for that long. I think it's not even like a complaint. It's just more of a like, I don't know if I get it. So just to kind of explore something with you, like when the other executive guy is telling Hillary Swank, like basically telling her you're out, you're going to have to resign / you're fired, because of this text conversation she had. Like, I thought that was an interesting sort of political commentary moment as well.
Sure.
Partly because of how, how much controversy can be drummed up by jokes. Like this is a thing that happens, is like people will be joking around and then that will get publicized and then it becomes a huge scandal. But like my reading of the scene was actually like, that guy is just making a power play and he's trying to get rid of all the competitors to him being in power, and so he's using this as a pretext. Like, I don't know, like that's and here it's just kind of my like beliefs about the world maybe coloring my viewing of the film, which is somewhat unavoidable when you're watching a movie that is so heavy on the political commentary.
Oh yeah, certainly. Yeah.
So that was a bit in there where I was like, where I was kind of like, so obviously she has been forced to resign from this position of immense power, because someone was able to leverage a mistake she made into something bad enough for her to get kicked out over. But instead of being mad at like the people who actually made her quit, she chooses to be mad at the people who posted about the bad thing she said online.
Yeah.
Which is like, I guess I saw that as being a commentary on how readily we like direct our anger at convenient targets rather than the correct target. I don't know if any of that was intended, but that was my scan of that whole situation, which I thought was very interesting and kind of enjoyed thinking about, because I wasn't really sure what to make of it at first.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's trying to be a commentary on cancel culture as well. I mean, this is where I think the politics of the movie get a little muddled, because I think it is trying to say something about the absurdity of a group of people losing their job because of a joke one person made on a private text group chain, right? Like this wasn't even like Twitter. Like it's not even that they made a bad taste joke on Twitter. This was like a private group messaging that got leaked. And I do think the movie's tone on that is, that's absurd. It's absurd for someone to lose their job because of a joke like that.
Right.
But I also think that the movie says, but the wrong, it is true that the wrong response to that is to like double down and like, so I mean, if you squint, it could be like a commentary on just the vicious cycle and the polarization that happens from this, because like this is catnip for the conservative Facebook user that sees this thing and runs with it and decides, I'm going to ruin these people's lives by constantly tweeting and messaging about this and making it a big deal and pretending to be offended when they probably weren't actually offended by that. And then, but that just polarizes people even more, because then the Hillary Swank's character reacts in the worst fucking possible way possible.
Yeah.
But still falling in line with everything that people assume she is, the liberal elite, like it's, I don't know if it's that clear, and I don't know if it works as well as it could. I wonder if there's a more simple version of this that just cuts that part of it out and just makes it clear that both sides in this movie are caricatures of internet versions of what a liberal and a conservative is, and Betty Gilpin is kind of caught in the middle and in this absurdity. I don't know if it needed that other stuff. I don't know.
I mean, I think you're right. I think very often it's just sort of like all over the place and just kind of taking pot shots and taking kind of opportunistic jokes and allowing characters just to be, risible stereotypes that are just there for you to laugh at how terrible they are before they get blown up. And that, and like, you're never going to have like the most incisive political commentary if you're aiming for that level of humor, like, because it just becomes really unclear what exactly you're saying. Yeah. You're like, wait a second, are you making fun of that phrase or the fact that that person is saying that phrase,
Right.
or like there's too many levels for me to be able to reliably parse it, which is, again, it's like yeah, this movie's not, I don't think it's trying to be like a Sorkin movie. Like it's
no.
like it's mainly trying to be like a comedy, but then it has a political point, and the political point I think we already basically articulated. Like these two sides are just like the worst people, and they don't actually represent, and then we're meant to identify with Betty Gilpin.
I do think this is the place where the movie does have the potential to piss people off, though, because like if you look at the commentary it's making on the liberal characters, I think the movie is showing clearly that it is not the politics that they're disagreeing with, but the hypocrisy of the people
Mm-hmm.
pretending to abide by those politics. So like when the Richard character is wearing a kimono and they yell at him for cultural appropriation, the movie is not saying, isn't it ridiculous that the society is worried about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's saying, look at the hypocrisy of these people. Like I think the same with like when Macon Blair's character says like, no, I would never blame the victim, and that's like supposed to be the clue that hints you in on which side he's in, and that's like what Betty Gilpin uses.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the movie is saying victim blaming is good or it's silly to be worried about victim blaming. I think like it's absurd that the guy who has a dead guy in his trunk that he stabbed in the head and is planning on doing the same thing with these two people, it's absurd that he's the one parroting this bullshit.
Right.
And I think if you miss that, you can very, very easily be offended by what the movie apparently is saying about progressive politics. But I don't think it's actually saying those things. And I do think that's a fine line. And I do think the movie ultimately succeeds on that line. But I could very well see a person who misses that or doesn't see it or doesn't want to see it getting very, very upset at this movie.
Sure. But that would be their fault. Like I really, I mean, I think the movie is pretty clearly lambasting like hypocrisy and stupidity and evil.
Yes.
I'm not gonna, I don't know, like I wouldn't go to the mat to defend like every single joke the movie makes. It's because it is just kind of swinging wildly. It's just like it's just like I don't know. I like it when people try to make stuff of this general shape where it's like political commentary where it's kind of inviting us not to take ourselves so seriously, and we can get some laughs out of it.
Sure.
And blow some people up and stab them in the head and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes. The parts that I like the least are when it goes just like very like it goes for the easy joke. Sometimes, like it's not too difficult to make fun of people on both of the side, and it's like sometimes it just goes for the easy joke. Like,
well, I guess that's one thing I noticed is like 90% of the jokes are actually at the expense of I guess I have to call it the liberal side, even though I basically see them as just a bunch of monstrous hypocrites who don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like we've been using the shorthand of liberal and conservative, but we really like that's not fair to liberals or conservatives. Right. Yeah. These are not human beings. They're not people. They don't actually have like these political beliefs. They're just polarized extremes of absurdity. Yeah,
one side is the straw man stereotype of the liberals, and the other side is the straw man stereotype of the conservatives, right?
Yeah.
But so the rest of that sentence was going to be really, it doesn't make that many like explicit jokes at the expense of the straw man stereotype of the conservatives. It's just like, yeah, they're dressed poorly, and they speak in Southern accents, and they all know how to use firearms, which I guess is kind of a funny joke.
I mean, they're like the conspiracy theory guy, Gary, I think it was the character.
They all know about the conspiracy theories because they're all because that's how they found these people. Is they were on message boards. So yeah, these are sort of that that particular slice of stereotype. But like beyond that, it doesn't spend nearly as much runtime digging into them and ragging on them and making jokes about them.
Yeah, which is an interesting choice, right? Because I don't think the movie's saying they're the good ones. Like I don't think that's the point of the movie, but I think it is taking a bigger swipe at the rich elite progressive person who is like buying a private plane to fly over here to kill people. Like,
Right.
I mean, like no one exists like that, of course, but it does seem to be taking a bigger swipe at that than, which is interesting because again, Damon Lindelof, not a conservative guy by far. Like he's not, but I wonder, like, I tried to look this up and I couldn't find anything on it. I wonder, like, what was the motivation for writing the script? Like what, like, obviously the Trump presidency probably was a lot of it, right? But like, and just the internet culture in the last few years. But I wonder, like, what inspired them to say, this is the story I want to tell right now, this way.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just the kind of thing that had been fomenting for some time in his mind, and it culminated in like that historical moment where things were getting especially crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, yeah, that's I don't know. It definitely was speaking to the time. It's sort of. I mean, I did like this movie, so I almost feel like it's kind of a shame that I never really heard about it. Nobody really saw it because it like I don't even remember there being like a discourse cycle about it on Twitter. It was just kind of happened and vanished.
I think you just have the right people muted.
Yeah.
There was definitely a discourse cycle. I mean, the interesting thing, like most discourse cycles, it was about the trailer and not the movie. The most discourse was after the trailers came out. When the movie just came out, it just kind of came and went, and no one said much anything about it at all.
Well, I feel like that's actually, now that I think about it, I'm like, what the movie is saying is a somewhat balanced, and reasonably careful, although obviously they like I said earlier, they do kind of make a shotgun approach to the jokes in some places.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't lend itself to like hot take rage bait.
Sure.
It's constructed to be thoughtful, and thus you just kind of the hive mind doesn't know what to do with it, and it just kind of goes away.
I mean, I think it's just too silly. Like, I mean, like,
yeah, that too.
It's not like a movie like Joker was in the hot take, rinse cycle because so many people were like, "Oh, this is a dangerous movie." Which you and I have already talked about how silly I thought that take was. That like that this movie would inspire people. I don't think The Hunt is the type of movie that anyone would ever label as like dangerous, because it's just too absurd. Like none of these people are people. It's so obviously like satire and comedy that like I just don't think there's anything to grab onto and be really like hot takey about. Yeah,
right. And we all want to be Betty Gilpin's character. All sides of the political spectrum.
I mean, she's a fucking badass. Yeah. She like owns the shit out of everything. She's really cool.
She's really cool. Yeah, she's great.
And she's read Animal Farm and understands it more than Athena.
Yeah, understands it. The only person in the movie who read Animal Farm. It's so good.
That's so good because it's so obvious that Athena did not actually read Animal Farm. Because she like. So I mean, if anyone's listening that hasn't watched the movie, she names Crystal's character after Snowball.
Yeah.
And she has just completely distorted and misunderstood the meaning of that character in that story. And Betty Gilpin calls her on it in this delicious scene. She's like, "You've read Animal Farm?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, this person is not who you thought they were."
Yeah, no, I think it's a good phrasing because Hilary Swank keeps insisting that she is the person who she thinks she is, and she's like, "No, you got the wrong Crystal Creasy."
Yeah,
and she keeps insisting, like, "No, you are who I think you are," right? Which is on the meta level, on the critical level, she's saying, "No, I get to define who you are. You don't get to escape from my definition of who you are." And Crystal, Betty Gilpin, is saying, no, I just am not that person. You literally have the wrong person. And that's kind of really, I think, connects really beautifully to what the movie is doing, where
Yeah.
it's like these people aren't who you think they are in your wild imaginings.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, even if they are, like, even if there is a person that is exactly like these people, they are the vast minority
Right.
of those people.
Right.
That you're absolutely right that this social media sphere we live in exists to amplify those voices over all other voices and gives such a distorted view on everything.
Yes, exactly.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, this movie's not going to actually solve any of those problems at all. It's just kind of having fun, poking fun at it and laughing at it, which is fine. It's harmless. It just you kind of go, oh, that was fun, and then move on.
Yeah. You just move on and drink your champagne, and
because it tastes fucking great. I love that, like, because, like, I think in any other movie, the joke is that the $250,000 bottle of champagne actually tastes like shit, right?
Uh-huh.
But no, this movie is like, no, it tastes fucking great.
I expected it to taste like shit because it was like, they retrieved it from underneath the ocean where it had lain for it, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be ruined. But no, apparently it tastes delicious.
It's perfect.
I mean, I don't even think wine is supposed to last 100 years or whatever.
There's no way it tastes good. Like, I think she's just, I think that's part of the joke, is that she just was enjoying it so much.
Yeah.
She's now changed into her clothes and gone onto her airplane, eating her caviar.
I mean, speaking of, like, God, I do have to give this to good old Damon. At the beginning of the movie, when the jerk guy is like, have you ever had caviar? And the stewardess goes, no. And then he's just like, oh, it's delicious. And then just, like, says nothing further about it.
Yeah.
And then at the end, Crystal's like, yeah, I'll have some caviar. Have you ever had caviar? No, I haven't. Oh, well, dig in, and invites her to sit down and have some. You're like, yeah, closure.
It is. It's really good. It's really good. That the stewardess that he was about to, like, probably sexually assault or at least harass before the guy woke up, like, he's definitely, like, had her in his sights. It was really gross.
Yeah.
That guy's played the guy who I said the other character was Glenn Howerton. I misspoke. Glenn Howerton is this character who is the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and he plays a predator really well.
Huge creep, definitely.
Yeah, such a creep. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I liked this movie. I guess we're at the point now where we have to say, Matt, does this movie deserve to belong in, like, our canon of the greatest films of all time?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, like, I mean, I've had such a fun time talking about this movie with you. I had such a fun time watching it, but I went into this conversation going, there's no way I'm going to vote yes on this. And I nothing in our conversation changed my mind.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I kind of agree that I'm not seeing a great case for putting it in the canon. It just doesn't strike me as, doesn't have the je ne sais quoi that I'm imagining when I think about the canon. It's a good movie though. Like, I recommend it,
Yeah, if you it's a short movie. It's like 90 minutes long, I think. And
it's
you're
fun.
gonna have a good time watching it if you like violent action movies.
I could totally see somebody voting for this though.
Yeah, totally.
I'm maybe more on the fence even because sometimes I think of the canon as a list of the best movies ever made, but sometimes I think of the canon as a weird eclectic mix of fun and interesting movies that you wouldn't otherwise know about, but you should see. And I'm like, maybe this does fit under that particular definition. Although I wouldn't say people, like, should see this movie. Like, there's way more movies that you should see. This is just a fun movie.
That's my thing, is, like, it's a fun movie. I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad we got to talk about it. There's so many more movies I would put ahead of this movie as far as, like, what you need to see with your limited time. And I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of films made about the current political climate we're in, especially the political climate of the past 4 years, right? There's going to be a lot of movies about that. And I think there's probably going to be some that have like something much more profound and deep to say that I don't know, maybe I'll end up enjoying more. Like, I don't know, like I look at this as a fun movie that made me go like, yeah, Twitter is stupid. And like that's great. But that's it, you know?
Yeah, sure. I feel you.
Okay, so yeah, I'm a firm no on this. Really, it's interesting because like this is the first no I voted where I really still enjoyed the thing.
Yeah.
It's just my vision of what this list is. This movie doesn't just gel with it. So
Yeah, I'm a no, but secretly hoping that it still wins.
I mean, I was surprised that this movie was nominated. I was surprised this movie won the vote amongst our council when we put it to them. So maybe this will be it, and it'll be another surprise that there's actually a very, strong contingent of people that really, really love this movie. I don't know.
Yeah,
we will see.
We will.
But that is it for The Hunt. I think. So weird thing about this movie, however, if like you've listened to this conversation and want to go watch it, you can't. I mean, you can. You have to buy it. Like this movie, you either have to have a subscription to Cinemax, or you have to buy the movie, which is weird. I don't understand. This streaming stuff sucks, man.
Yeah, I don't know how they make their decisions.
All right, that is The Hunt. It's time, Matt. Are you ready?
All right.
It's time to talk about Doof Madness 2021.
I'm nervous, Scott.
This is it. You don't know. Just reiterate. You don't know who won. So the matchup was between The Matrix and The Princess Bride. And here's the results, Matt.
Okay.
So I'm going to read the numbers first. I'm going to tell you who won. The vote was 51.32% to 48.68%.
Oh, no.
Extremely close.
Oh, Jesus.
A few votes. Just a few votes. And the winner is, I've been watching a lot of reality TV, so like I feel like I need to
just fucking say it.
The Matrix wins. The Matrix wins.
Oh, thank God. Honestly, it would have been fine either way. But
yeah,
I did vote for The Matrix, as we know. So
yeah, very, very close. I think this was the closest matchup of anything in the entire tournament. So congratulations to The Matrix, the best movie that we've ever reviewed on this. That's what it means, right? That's what it means.
That's what it means.
The best movie we've ever reviewed.
Yeah, I think back when we talked about The Matrix, what I said was somehow, despite the fact that this is one of the most beloved movies of all time, people are still sleeping on it. It's that good.
Mm-hmm. It is. So congratulations to The Matrix. Good job, Princess Bride. You gave a great battle. Just wasn't quite enough.
Yeah. I mean, and it's the second best movie of all time.
Second best movie of all time.
It's not shabby. Not shabby.
All right, you want to hear about the third place match, though?
Yeah, sure.
So we had a third place match between Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Mad Max Fury Road. And with 57.97% of the vote, Spider-Man takes it. Mad Max loses in the bronze matchup. I was a little surprised about this.
Yeah, very close still.
Pretty close, yeah.
I think you and I were sort of expecting Spider-Man to win the whole thing, so not shocked that it is still in the top three. Mad Max at number 4. That's respectable.
Yeah.
It's respectable.
It is. But, good for you. The Matrix. This was fun, though. We need to do this again next year. I'm not sure exactly how it'll work out, what movies we'll pick, but this was a lot of fun. Thank you to everyone who participated. I had a good time. I hope you had a good time. It was excruciating in some ways and fun in other ways. I need to be less good at seeding.
I know.
There's not people would be more excited about this if there were crazy upsets all the time. But
you should just randomize it, or you should just put like weird movies against each other.
It would be fun to do. It'd be fun to take the AFI Top 100 and seed it based on that list.
Ooh.
And then see what people actually think and pick the best movie on the. I mean, I don't know how to do that with 100 movies because it's a 64 movie tournament, but something like that would be fun.
Just add another round, and then I don't know.
We would need 128, so that wouldn't work.
I'm sure that mathematician in the audience can help us solve this problem.
Yeah, but we'll be back next year, next March, do something similar. I always love doing these things, so hope you enjoy it too. Thank you to everyone who participated and commented and stressed over it along with us. It was a lot of fun.
Scott was sending me updates on the voting like several days this week, and it
Mhm.
would always be just like perfectly 50-50. So
Yeah.
not only did it end up a close match, but it was a close match the whole time. So.
Yeah, I think with a few days to go, I stopped doing that because I wanted to surprise you, but it flipped back and forth multiple times. Like there were right out the gate, Princess Bride took an early lead, and I was like, "Oh, wow!" And then it Matrix clawed its way back and ended up on top.
I mean, I think when they're that close, I think the real conclusion is just like they're both equally good.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. I mean, there has to be a winner by nature of the game, but come on, these are two incredible movies.
Yep.
All right. That is it for this year. We will see you next year on Doof Madness 2022. We'll figure out whatever the hell that is. But congratulations to The Matrix.
Yep.
Doof.
All right, Matt, let's do some TV roundup. Because the TV is there, and there's lots of things on it.
It's all there is now.
I wanted to talk to you about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We talked a lot about WandaVision, but we haven't talked about Falcon and the Winter Soldier yet. And we're 5 episodes into the 6-episode run, so we're almost done with this thing. And I want to know what you think of it. What do you think of Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Have I seen all 5 episodes is my first question that I'm not sure about. But so far...
I said 5. I meant 4. We're 4 episodes into the 6-episode run.
I was going to say, I'm enjoying it. I'm not like loving it the way that I was loving WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
But I am enjoying it for what it is. It is much. It is the. It is just a crazy, silly version of whatever this thing is that they're doing. Where it's not really trying to be serious. It's like they're like, oh yes, we have to go to this nightclub in this. God, I don't know, man. Like it's just excess. It's just like excess. That's what they're doing. And yeah, there is a dramatic core, which I think is working for me pretty well. Some aspects of it are not maybe landing for me that well. Overall, I give it like 3.5 out of 5 stars or so. What do you think?
I'm enjoying it. I mean, I'm enjoying the ways in which the show's kind of dealing with the snap and the MCU has not really reckoned with its like pro-military. Like the MCU is pretty pro-military, right? Like and it occasionally reckons with that, but I think that's one of the mission statements of this show is to really sit with that and explore what it means. My complaint about the show would be like we keep being told a lot about how the world was during the blip, but like that's it. We're just told about it, right? So like there's not we're told like, oh, the world was so good and everyone was working together and peaceful, and then the governments are like forcing everyone back, and we're just told all that. We're not really shown the bad things that are happening. We're just kind of told them by our antagonist character, who, as I predicted, is not quite as antagonistic as we first thought she would be, although she does really enjoy killing people. So
right. Honestly, that's one element that I don't think is landing for me, is like I just don't feel any real connection or sympathy to her or her ethos or her plight. And like it doesn't help me when Sam is like able to like easily persuade or like sort of easily rattle her ideological foundations in like 5 minutes of conversation. You're just like, okay, so she's just dumb.
I mean, I wish she was a more consistent of a character, because she is really interesting. How this person who like genuinely seems to want to do the right thing, and it is motivated by justice and fairness, but I mean, she goes from like one scene to like calling Sam's sister and saying like threatening to murder his whole family, and then the next scene is like, I never would have done that, Sam, and you're just
right.
like, okay, like come on,
yeah.
What are you doing to me, show?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really. I mean, theoretically, it's good. Theoretically, it's the same thing the MCU always does, where the villain is the dark mirror of the protagonist, because she is like Sam. She has very similar sort of ethos to Sam, but has chosen to go about pursuing her goals in a different way. He's with the establishment, or well,
he's barely with. He's not really.
Yeah, let me rephrase. They're actually both anti-establishment, but he's chosen to be anti-establishment in a way that's extremely. I mean, it's totally inspired by the way Captain America would do it, right? It's the like, I'm going to be perfectly moral and self abnegating about this, and I'm going to do it right, even if it's like at the expense of making my job harder. And whereas she's a pragmatist, she's a terrorist who blows people up to get what she wants, and it's so again, like, very similarly aligned in terms of goals, but different executions, and that's the debate. So like that's what the show is trying to do. It's just that I think it's trying to have its cake and eat it too with her character, where she is a terrorist who murders people, but you're kind of supposed to feel sympathetic for her, and I'm just like, I don't know. I'm emotionally confused about what I'm supposed to feel about her.
I think the times when the show feels the most TV to me is how her whole thing feels so small. Like, I wish it was bigger. I wish we could see more of all that with her. And it feels like it doesn't have time or space for it, or I don't know. It just feels different to me. I mean, the other side of that coin is the new Captain America, who I think has been incredible. I love this character. I think Wyatt Russell is playing him just perfectly. Like, the design, I love that he wears the helmet more, because like the helmet makes him look intimidating and creepy, and I love that so much. Right.
No, he's playing this great, like, aggro, rage Captain America.
Yeah.
I love his face, where he's got like a really prominent jaw, and with the helmet on in particular, it makes him look, like a crazy person.
Yeah.
No, he's great. I like what they're doing with him. I like what's going on with Bucky a lot, actually. We haven't really mentioned that. I guess I led with like my least favorite thing, but like, I like what's going on with Bucky and with Sam and with new Cap, and I'm not sure if I like what they're doing with Zemo, because it all feels like Zemo has been kind of reduced from like the genuinely effective scary mastermind character in Civil War to like a total joke. I don't know if you agree, but
I mean, yes and yes. I think absolutely, but I like it. I think it's funny. I love his jacket, and I love how when he's watching the Wakandan women just like beat the shit out of everyone, he just like, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
it's really good. I don't know, like, he's one of those ways which I feel the show feels really small to me, because I just think it's so weird that they just like went into this prison and broke him out, and then now he's just with them, and everyone's just fine with it, and like even Captain America catches up to them and he's not fine with it, but like no one's after them, and they're just kind of like existing. I don't know. It feels weird to me that like this isn't a more of an ongoing plot point, that the fact that they broke this man out of prison.
I guess this is one of those things where I'm in a Schrodinger's cat situation, caught between rolling my eyes and just enjoying it and going with it. Because like so much of the movie is just like, no time to think about that, move on.
Yeah.
And it kind of happens again and again, where it's like, okay, now we're going to this country, and you're like, okay, like, so you're flying in this private jet between countries, which has an international fugitive on it, and you're just always able to get through security. And it's like, no, you're shut up. You're not supposed to be thinking about it this way. This is basically a Fast and the Furious movie now.
Yeah.
Where none of that matters. This is not the real world. This is a fantasy world where things work according to James Bond rules. and then if you click over into that mode, then it works pretty well. It's just a little bit jarring when it then tries to go back to like pathos.
Yeah, it's trying to be like super serious and impactful and saying something. Yeah. Right. I think I don't know if the movie's pulling off both those things at the same time. I keep calling it a movie. It's a show. but I'm still enjoying my time with it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna keep watching it. Yes.
The end of that last episode was just fucking baller.
That was great. Yeah. I mean, it's got some really great moments. I like it a lot. I'm still happy with the MCU TV thing they're doing. Sort of regret that I opened up this conversation so negatively, because it's sort of a minor element that's not working for me. It was at the front of my mind. So
yeah, I mean, like Cap standing there with blood on his shield after fucking decapitating someone with it was like, it's just a perfect image. And I'm like, I had forgotten that like it's directly referencing a moment in Civil War when Captain America did that same attack to Iron Man, and then like obviously did not carry through.
Right.
It's perfect re-imaging of that to draw a distinction between these two men. And like, look, the new Captain America, like he's complicated, like he's a jerk, and he's obviously gonna be like the bad guy, but he's a complicated person, right? Like he's a war hero. He's like, he has medals. He has regrets around the things that he did to earn them, and he saw this as the chance to be morally pure. Yeah, and it's way harder than he's finding it to be, and he's reacting poorly to that. Like that's a wonderfully drawn character. It kind of bums me out when I see like the internet discourse is just like this guy is look, don't get me wrong, he's shitty. Like he's a shitty person. Obviously, he just decapitated a guy with the shield. But I think he's complicated. Yeah. And I appreciate that the show is taking the time for that complication. I mean, the choice to make our introduction to him sitting in a locker room, like thinking about his past and the pressures of this mantle he's about to put on, is a humanizing moment. And the show took time to humanize him and show his transformation into the bloody shield man. Yeah.
And the conversation he has with his partner where he debates the idea of taking the the super soldier vial. I thought that was great. Like I really enjoyed what the show did with the idea of like, would you take the vial? And Sam is like immediately like, no, of course not. Mm-hmm. But he struggles with it because I mean, shoot, man, you offer me a super soldier vial, why shouldn't I take it, right? But like I get that like, it's a more complicated world they live in, but it's, he feels inadequate to the task. He's always aware of like could be better at this, it's human, it's relatable. He fails at the challenge, right? Because in a sense, I mean, that's what the show is saying, is he takes the super soldier vial, and then the first thing he does is like publicly murders someone in a way that's going to ruin his reputation and image and take away everything that he could have possibly, accomplished. Yeah. In a positive way. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm really excited to see how that all wraps that up. I mean, I think the goal, the trajectory of the show is obviously Sam getting to a place where he feels like he can take up on that mantle. Right. And so having this character who is suffering with the same affliction of doubt and inability to successfully like carry the shield, is really interesting. And we've watched him fail, and it's really good. It's really good.
Yes, absolutely. The moment that we're definitely building up to where Sam takes up the shield is going to be so satisfying. You can already tell.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so that is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We have 2 more episodes to go on that. Maybe we'll circle back around and talk about it after it's all wrapped up.
Yep.
Do you see that Loki trailer? Looks pretty freaking good.
It looks really excellent. Yes.
I had no idea what that show was going to be, and I was kind of out on that one. I was like, we don't need like some of these shows. I'm kind of just like, eh. And then that trailer came out, and I'm like, oh shit, this is really creative. I'm into this.
Yeah, it's the kind of stuff that I love. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, so another show I wanted to talk about briefly with you is a show called Invincible. Have you watched any of this?
No, I have not.
Okay, so this is an animated series on Prime. It is based on a comic book written by Robert Kirkman, who's the same guy who did The Walking Dead. And it's pretty good, Matt. It's pretty good. It is an hour long. It is animated, but definitely for adults. It is super violent, super violent. There's a moment like the first episode, speaking of pilots that I'm about to speak about, the first episode is so good because it starts in a really conventional way that basically defines the world as just, oh, we're just doing like the DC superheroes thing. It's just very DC. There's even like a group that is basically the Justice League. There's a character that's basically Superman, and the show is about his son who just gets powers. And so it's very kind of like standard. It even like looks like your standard like DC cartoon TV show. And then it just fucking goes nuts in the last 5 minutes and just floored me. I don't want to spoil it for you or anyone in case you watch it, but like the last 10 minutes of the pilot episode just like completely upend what you think the show is going to be about in really interesting ways. And it's doing a thing, it's not exactly like The Boys, where The Boys is taking a very cynical swipe at superhero stuff. This is much less cynical, but much more interesting. It's not necessarily deconstruction, but it's really looking at superhero stuff in an interesting way. Like, I guess you could say it's kind of doing what like Zack Snyder tried to do in Justice League, but like, good.
You couldn't help yourself.
The only thing I'll say about the show is I think the animation looks terrible. It's bad. I don't think it's good. And I don't like, it's obviously a choice, right? Because this is a very expensive show that has like a ridiculous cast, and they've really thrown out all the stops here. And it's like they wanted to make it look in this way. And this might be just like my anime bent coming out when a lot of the animation is like really static and flat. And I just don't think it looks good. But I like it so much that I get over that. So
okay, well, that was one of the things that turned me off because I saw like Twitter was giving me these ads for it. It was very funny actually. I literally had like a Twitter ad for it on my screen, and I was like, "This looks terrible." And then you, at that exact moment, were like, "Man, have you watched Invincible? It's really great." I was like, "What the fuck is happening?"
It does look terrible. I've gotten used to it, so it doesn't bother me as much. It's not. There's going to be people out there. There's going to be animation lovers that are going to be like really pissed at me for saying this. Whatever. I totally get why you would think it looks good. I totally get it's an aesthetic choice they're making. I just don't think the show looks good. But
yeah,
it's well told enough. It's well directed enough that I don't mind.
All right, you've successfully made me very curious.
Sweet.
I'm betting that I will end up watching the pilot. We'll see though. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Well, let's talk about another pilot that you may or may not want to watch.
Okay.
So I wanted to briefly talk about a show called The Nevers, which premiered on HBO Max this Sunday. It was apparently the most watched thing on HBO Max ever, which is wild. This is actually a Joss Whedon show, created and developed and directed by Joss Whedon. He left the project near the end of development for obvious reasons, given everything that we have that the world has said about Joss Whedon. He says it was for personal reasons, but it was like the same time a bunch of the stuff was coming out, so it was not. He was asked to leave the show. It's very obvious he was asked to leave the show.
Okay.
So they're doing this really weird thing where like the first 6 episodes are going to come out, and then they're going to take like this really long hiatus, and then the next 4 are going to come out. Which I don't know if that's going to work for him, but we'll see. Regardless of any of this, it is a very Whedon-esque show. Like it feels like Joss Whedon in every way. But I don't like this pilot. Like here, the confusing thing about the show is I'm going to watch it next week, and I'm going to keep watching it, and I think I'm going to enjoy it. But this is like an example of pilots that I just want to be like, hey, calm down. This is 3 episodes squished into 1 episode. Uh-huh. There's way too much going on. There's way too many characters. It's like frantically trying to figure out who is what and what is where and why is this, and it's just throwing character after character after character at you. It's just too much all at once, and I don't know why people do pilots like this.
Yeah, I feel like a good pilot doesn't even necessarily introduce all of the relevant characters. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to like Trying to think of all of my favorite pilots. I feel like they generally either barely introduced certain characters or didn't at all, and just were basically just like a slightly longer episode of the show. So yeah, it does seem like a mistake.
Yeah, and I mean to set the stage a little bit, this is basically like Victorian era X-Men. There are these people, it's mostly women, but some men as well, that have been given superpowers, and our main character is a woman who leads an orphanage that collects the women. This is X-Men. And there's also a superpowered person on the other side that has different political leanings and is basically Magneto. And then of course there's the normal humans in the middle that are scared of both sides. It's X-Men, but it's interesting. I like the powers. I like the characters that we have met. I just think there were too many of them. Like, just imagine you meet the entire cast of X-Men in an hour, and like you don't even understand what all their powers are yet, and you don't even understand how their relationships work and who came from where, and it's just a lot. It's just a lot.
Okay, yeah. The closest thing I'm able to think of for this would be the one about the children who were all born with powers, and then the weird guy.
Umbrella Academy,
where
not close at all.
Yeah, well, the reason I bring that up is it's another example of a show where it takes its sweet time revealing what's going on with all these characters and not trying to shove it down your throat.
I do actually think, I was thinking about this. I think Whedon has this problem a lot with his pilots, actually. Like, I like Firefly. There's a reason why that Fox did not run the first episode of Firefly as the pilot.
Interesting.
Because it's a bit of a mess.
Okay.
Like, once you understand who all the characters are and how they work together, I think you can go back and watch the pilot of Firefly and it's really, really good. But like the first, I just remember the first time I watched Firefly, like a girl I knew in high school was like super into the show and she really wanted me to watch it, and she sat it down, and I was bored. I was so bored. And I love Firefly now. And that's how this felt to me. It was just like, maybe you should have just had a more targeted, specific episode that introduced your two main characters and some of the antagonists, and then like roll out the rest of them as you went. So I think this is something that Whedon has struggled with in the past. Yeah. It's interesting. It's been so long since I've seen Buffy for the first time. I can't say if that pilot has the same problem. I don't think so, because it's a smaller show, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Firefly, and that is a show that I remember kind of taking time to grow on me, and then ultimately I did love it, but it took a few episodes.
It's an unpopular opinion for me to say it. The pilot of Firefly is bad, folks. I'm sorry. It's not good.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It's not a good episode of the show.
I don't remember what happens in it, but I'll take your word for it.
It functions well as an episode of a show that you already love. It functions terribly as an introduction to a show.
Gotcha.
It's too slow. There's too many characters.
Oh yeah. I remember there being like a beat in the pilot that characterizes one character in a way that then like she never behaves anywhere near that way again, and you're just like, okay, you changed your mind about that, whatever. I guess they're allowed to do that.
Yeah, that happens a lot, but
yeah.
It's just like, pilots are tough. Sometimes I want to like spend the rest of my life analyzing pilots in particular, because they're fascinating. They're fascinating to me. The ways they work and the ways they don't. Like, I mean, between the Invincible and the Nevers, like the Invincible pilot is so good and the Nevers pilot is so eh. And it's interesting because I'm excited about both these shows. I'm excited about the potential of the Nevers, but I just don't think that was a good introduction to that show at all.
Well, we'll see what happens.
We will. That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Awesome.
Just TV. It's good. I like watching it.
Yeah, it's all right.
All right, folks, that's all we had for you guys this week. If you have any opinions on The Hunt, on our Doof Madness tournament, or on any of the 3 TV shows we talked about just then, you can reach out to us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com or over on Twitter @doofmedia. Also, hey, don't forget to vote. The link is in the show notes right now. Vote for The Hunt. Should it be in our canon or not? And please let us know why. Especially if you're voting yes for this one, because I really want to hear from you folks. So if you vote yes, please let us know why.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not already subscribed to the Doofcast, we encourage you to subscribe and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found.
You can find this and all of our shows over at our website, doofmedia.com, where you can find our other show, Kingslingers, in which next week, we're talking about the Dark Tower movie, the dreaded Dark Tower movie.
It's gonna be a good conversation.
It's finally here.
Yep.
If you like what we do here and want to support us, consider becoming a patron of Doof Media. You can head on over to patreon.com/doofmedia and pledge at the council level, which allows you to nominate and vote on the movies that we talk about here. So if you're sitting there going like, why The Hunt? You can pick your own movie.
Yeah. Wasn't our fault, folks.
Yeah, not my fault at all. Although I'm very glad it happened.
Me too.
So thank you to our patrons who nominated and voted on that movie to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Please consider rating and reviewing the Doofcast on Apple Podcasts, because each review helps us get more exposure and introduces new people to the content that we make here.
All right, folks, that is it for us this week. We will be back next week when we begin our Deconstructing Verbinski series with the very first in this movie. It's Mouse Hunt, right? Is it Mouse Trap or Mouse Hunt?
Mouse Hunt.
Mouse Hunt. We're going to be watching Mouse Hunt.
My favorite.
See you then.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.